My name is Cari Huffman, and I'm going to be talking to you about enthusiasm, which actually speaks to me, so this kind of works out perfectly. So in order to get you in the groove for this presentation, I want you to think back to your favorite coach or favorite teacher growing up. And typically what I tell my students is close your eyes. Envision that individual. Well, I envision Brian Monk. He was my junior varsity coach my freshman year in high school and then continued to be a mentor throughout my high school career. There were so many good things about him. His organization skills, the way he communicated with his team, and his personality. You could tell that he had passion for life and for the game of softball. And hopefully the individual you think of with enthusiasm fits, that mold or fits the mold that we're looking for, that has passion in what they do, because that's what's truly important and that's what makes a great coach. So to walk you through the presentation, first I want to just go over the idea of what is enthusiasm. What does it look like? So according to Webster, they say that, it's a belief in a revelation or like a Holy Spirit. That could be pretty deep when you tell like a 14-year-old. Or you say it's a strong excitement for something. Or having something that's inspiring zeal or fervor. And zeal is essentially having high energy, which you're kind of looking at me right now, even though I am a little tired from a long drive today. So the idea here is, enthusiasm just drives so much passion in sports, and it makes people excited. So, in my presentation, I put in two great films, Remember the Titans and my personal favorite, A League of Their Own. With Remember the Titans, you have this team facing a lot of adversity. Most of their issues here are the issues of race and how do they actually work together as a collective front. And I picked the scene called Left Side, Strong Side, when the two characters are hitting each other, going back and forth. I love that because you start to see enthusiasm and passion and excitement for these athletes. And despite their hardships, they're still excited to be out there. And it actually is a turning point in the film, because they are coming together as a team. The other scene I selected, again, from A League of Their Own, my personal favorite, is with Jimmy Dugan. Throughout the entire film, this coach is no role model. He's practically a drunk. But as they go into the World Series, he decides to lead them in a little prayer. And the girls were taken back by it. It was like he had a revelation. He led them in a great prayer and said, look out for these girls. They're good girls. And, hopefully bring home the championship type thing. And it was just a moment of a different type of enthusiasm where you just see the growth in a coach, because sometimes we have those coaches that they may lack enthusiasm, but they have a lot of heart. And, just because I sometimes call myself the happy idiot, that doesn't mean that a coach that's less enthusiastic than I am is not a good coach. They just have other qualities that make him or her a great coach. Now, to move on to a role model of mine, who I also want to say is, the coach I selected for the presentation is, of course, Patty Gasso, who I mentioned in a lot of my discussion posts. I met her in January with one of my best friends who is also a varsity coach in the county. And there was something about her. She had enthusiasm about her players, her hopes for the season. And I just connected with her because it wasn't like this hard, strict woman that you would expect at the collegiate level. I mean, she was very laid back, and sometimes it's almost better to be that way. Not necessarily laid back in the way that you don't get your job done, but you don't want to be intimidating. Sorry, I have a dog, so you might hear her a couple times. And with Patty Gasso, I'm just going to read off a couple stats for you. She's an NFCA Hall of Fame member, and that's the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association, which I am a member of. And essentially, she molded herself into this powerhouse coach that names her one of the elite coaches in the country. And check this. Her record is 11,146, 322, and 2 at Oklahoma University. So, where does enthusiasm fit in with her success? Well, for her, after this championship, you see the enthusiasm from her players. Her players are chanting, 4-time Natty Patty, and I'm like cracking up because this woman is very composed, but so passionate about her players. And that is truly something that we as coaches need to have, is passion for what we do. Because if you lack passion, then what are you doing out there? It's not obviously to collect a paycheck, because we don't get paid enough. And the reason why I selected this quality of character was because this past season we played the powerhouse of Maryland, Sherwood High School, and sorry, my dog. And my girls made this hilarious Snapchat film reel. And one of them was a horrible picture of me from a football game where I'm screaming at them from the bleachers like, ah. And they labeled it, we have an enthusiastic coach, or our coach is very enthusiastic. And I cracked up, because that is me. I'm enthusiastic about everything I do, because if you're not enthusiastic about life and about the things that you're doing, why are you doing it? You have to have passion. So, and one of the equations I've put in this presentation is the idea that enthusiasm equals excitement equals passion, which equals success. And honestly, success isn't always measured in wins or losses, which unfortunately so many coaches stick to, is that you are not a successful coach if you don't have a winning record. You could be successful in so many other ways. And I think that's what's missing in our society today, is too many people are fixed on this we must win idea, and that's not how it should be. So I want to read a quote from our textbook, and forgive me if it's a little lengthy. I actually, when we read this a couple weeks ago, I tweeted some of this out because it completely changed my mindset going into this next season. So it states, So it says, successful coaches have and model persistence. Stay with and believe in your kids. They need you, your persistence, and your faith in them much more than they are willing to admit. Very true. If you want to have teams that never quit, then you as a coach must have the same spirit. That's a key word there that links to enthusiasm. The time when the most positive persistence is needed is when things aren't going well. Again, very true. All cues for how the team will respond are taken from leadership. Develop the capacity to never quit. Be determined toward every goal. Continue to visualize the finished product. Do not let your team lose sight of their potential greatness. And again, this is the quote that I tweeted out representing the focus for my season. Great coaches do not coach against their opponent. They coach against a vision of how good their team is capable of being, and never let go of that vision. That spoke to me this year, because last season, I always said, we're at Sherwood this, Sherwood that. We're going after Sherwood. Okay, one at a time. Let's take it one team at a time, and let's focus on us. Who cares about them? Because, with our goals, we can't control what happens in this game on their end. We can only control what we can do. And we need to have enthusiasm and be excited for what we're doing on the ball field. And again, this came from developing a positive coaching legacy, which, at 32 years old, I'm trying to do, because eventually I want to get to the college level. So I do find that enthusiasm does have some plus deltas, and that's my teacher lingo for you. So plus is obviously meaning something positive. Deltas are areas that could change. We know the positives about enthusiasm. You can get excited. It can unite a team. That's great. But we need to focus on a negative for a moment, and that's sometimes it can turn into a lack of focus. So even it can be from me too. I can go off on a tangent about something else, and the girls could be like, Coach, what are you talking about? I mean, everybody's guilty of pulling somebody off focus. Sometimes it can be misguided or misread. And it can actually divide a team, which I know sounds crazy, but here's why. So I actually love quotes by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He speaks to me sometimes. There's one about sisters and, you know, never being far apart, but never being too far apart, close at heart, something like that. I should probably quote it a little better, but I just, his quotes speak to me. So I selected one for this presentation, and it states, "Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm." And that's true. Nothing great. So when I go back to how enthusiasm can divide a team, what I mean is if people don't aspire for greatness, it's not going to work. You have to have people in the same ball field, you know, or playing field. You know, as a teacher, you know, I want my kids all to be successful, but some kids aren't striving for that 4-year university. They may want the community college. They might just want to jump into a career. However, at the time and place that you are with your kids, you want to aspire for greatness. And that is why I live by enthusiasm and how I teach history and how I coach softball. I think it's actually one of the most important aspects of coaching, because without enthusiasm. So I hope you liked my presentation, and thank you very much.